Real talk about real life. Spiritual maturity. Faith. Leadership. Growth. Welcome to Life Beyond Sunday podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to Life Beyond Sunday. I'm with TJ and Shayla. Good morning, guys.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
Good morning.
Good. Was that intro better?
Yes, you
Okay.
did so much better.
I was getting
starting off
coached.
season 2
There
with
we
a bang.
go. I was getting coached about how I need to work on my intro, so I feel like I'm pressing to impress. All right.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about marriage.
Okay.
And traditional male and female roles. TJ's already smirking. He's already laughing. But we're going to talk a little bit about that. And to give context to the conversation, I'm going to pull up a report that CNBC did, and they published it in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And it stated that 90% of the world's population now live in countries with falling marriage rates. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Pew Research conducted a study that shows that marriage rates have declined by nearly 15% since the 1990s. And the median age of people getting married has increased for both men and women.
Okay.
And then we obviously, I think, have heard this statistic that nearly 50% of marriages end in divorce. So today we're
First marriages.
Second and third marriages
Goes
are
up.
higher.
Way higher.
It's like 70%, right?
Mhm.
I think it's 70 and it's like 80 something in the third marriage.
Yeah. So for first marriages, nearly 50% of first marriages end in divorce. And so today I think we are going to talk a little bit about what marriage is, how it was, what the biblical principles of marriage is, how it was, what it was designed to be, and kind of break that down a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
So first,
What do you think it is? I'm just
Are we
kidding.
doing this?
I'm just kidding.
she likes so biblically speaking,
Mm-hmm.
what is marriage? A very dumbed down
Yeah.
explanation of what marriage is.
Marriage is a union between a man and a woman that is God instituted and God ordained
Okay.
and for life.
And what is its purpose? Why did God ordain marriage? What's the purpose of marriage?
I mean, if you look back at Genesis, it was like to be a helper to each other and to reproduce and, all of those things to populate the earth.
Yeah.
What else?
Well, I mean, I think it's the greatest representation of relationship. I think it's also the greatest. A healthy, loving marriage represents Christ better than anything else that's out there.
Yeah.
When you think about how society sees marriage,
Mm-hmm.
how do you think that the society today sees it? Do you think it aligns with biblical principles, or
No, I think people see it as transactional.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
When I think about most of the people that I encounter that are having marriage issues and problems, it's always a transaction. Well, if you do this, I'll do that. If you do this, if you do that, instead of a
covenant.
A covenant of what does Ephesians say? Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. How did Christ love the church? By dying to himself. Marriage is a constant death to yourself to serve the needs of somebody else.
Yep.
do you agree with that?
100%. And I think, going along the lines with that verse, husbands, love your wife like Christ loved the church, and then
Wives
submit to your husband. But I think a lot of times we don't like the word submit, right? Like in our culture, in our day and age, it's like, I'm a woman, I don't need to submit to a man, all of that. But I think when you're doing biblical marriage right, and your husband is loving you and he's dying to himself, like it's so much easier for me to go, I can trust that and submit to the things because I know he's pursuing God. I know that, so they work in conjunction with one another. So if he's not loving me, it's hard for me to submit to that. But if he is loving me, it's so much easier for me just to trust and allow him to lead.
Yeah. I remember one time I was talking to somebody and I was like, oh, she wasn't a churchgoer, but she's like, one time I went to a church and the pastor read this verse in Ephesians that said that women had to submit. And I turned to my husband and I said, we're leaving right now. And she walked out and she's like, I'm never gonna, go back. why do you think that there's such a like a sour taste in, I mean, you kind of alluded to it, but do you think it's because they don't think that men, do you think that women have such a hard time with that because they're in relationships where men aren't doing their part? Or do you think it's like just a societal thing where they're just like, I
think it's
you know, 'cause
both.
now,
I mean, I'll tell you what I think. I think it's because we live in a day and an age where we're telling everybody that, and this is automatically going to make people mad, but we're living in a day and an age where we say women can do everything that men can. And that's just not true. Like, we're physically designed different. Like, no matter how much you lift, I'm always going to be able to lift more than you. Like, I'm physically stronger than you. If you look at traditionally, men don't hold on to things like women hold on to things. Like, we are designed differently. And
that is to compliment
and it's
each
a
other.
compliment. It's actually a beautiful thing when you realize, like, there is, like, when the Bible says the woman is weaker, it's talking about like a physical aspect. And all of us
It's not
generally
saying we're a weaker being, you know.
It's saying there's physical differences in us. And if we would accept our roles in that and not try to be the other person, we would actually see how awesome we would fit together rather than trying to go, no, we're the same piece. Well, last time I checked, same pieces don't fit together.
Yeah.
Different pieces fit together.
Right.
If you look at a puzzle, they're different.
right.
And I think we have to embrace that and be okay with that.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so beautiful and combines so well together to make this really beautiful picture.
And it also is like, it helps in looking at your lives, like, what are your strengths and what are my strengths?
Right.
Oh, I'm going to submit to you in your strengths because I know that's your strength.
Right.
And you're going to submit to me in my strengths.
Yeah.
And what do you think do you think there are traditional roles that a male should be doing in the marriage and a female should be doing? How do you think that?
I think it's kind of it's almost just like what TJ just talked about. Like, we all have different strengths. I don't know that I think there's things that you should talk about going into marriage. I don't know if we've talked about this on the podcast or if this was in a relationship series at some point, but everybody has been raised differently. And they saw different roles displayed in their household, right? Maybe in their household, their dad worked and their mom stayed home and was cleaning, taking care of the kids, all of that. And maybe my husband is coming from a different household where both parents worked and both, like, they saw roles played out differently. And so I think a lot of times we can go into marriage with the perception of what we grew up with and think, well, that's how it should be. And we've never had conversations. And now we're just frustrated with one another, where I think it's more, let's have those conversations before marriage. I don't think there's specifically like women need to clean and now the women are going to have the children, like that is.
There's still been no man that's had a baby.
Still.
No matter what they say they are, they still
haven't had babies.
They still haven't had babies. So
like, I mean, there's going to be things just based on our nature, right? That are part of our role to add to the relationship. But I think there's healthy conversations that can have where it's agreed upon before you ever get married. Like, this is how our marriage is going to operate and the responsibilities that we're going to take in that relationship. But I don't think it's like women, they cook, they clean, they take care of the kids. It's not that way.
No, but I do think that there are some innate things that like are not traditional things, but are built in within, like
what?
Like, I think every woman wants a man that will provide stability and protection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and that doesn't mean you got to be able to beat everybody up, but you've got to be a protector.
Right.
You've got to provide stability in the home. You can't be the emotional basket case. Like, they are looking for that.
And I think every man probably wants a woman that supports him, encourages him, honors him, like.
Yeah.
And so there are some things like that, but the non, there's the traditional, like the woman has to clean. Well, that doesn't work for us. Like,
is Shayla not the neat freak in the house?
Shayla is definitely not the neat freak in the house. I'm the one that likes to do dishes. I do a lot of the laundry. I pick things
A lot
up.
of the you do your laundry and I do my laundry.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Wait, that seems like a waste. He should do your laundry too. Why are you
He
running
would.
two loads?
He would,
I would.
honestly.
Okay.
He would.
Then let him.
But I'm just making sure that I don't look like a total slob.
It's all right. There's other talents, Shayla.
Yeah. When I always tell people when I made this list of all these things I wanted in
Oh,
a
dear
spouse,
Lord.
and I didn't put any like domestic things on there. And I'm like, I can't be angry that my wife isn't like the
Did you
domestic.
think that the king built it?
I
to
thought that
every
the king
woman?
built
like
it.
every woman.
Like
is
every
me.
woman
You thought
cooks
there
and
was
cleans.
roles.
Yeah,
Right,
You thought there were
right.
traditional
And then I
roles.
got married, and I realized that is not
You're
the
like-
case.
And God was like, "That's what happens when you don't pray."
Yeah,
I
that's
put
right.
that on my list.
Yeah.
A man that cleans. Actually, you don't cook.
I don't cook. I don't cook. I don't.
Started grilling.
I started
That's
grilling.
good.
I can
That's
grill.
good.
I don't really cook anything else.
It's okay. They invented DoorDash for you.
They did.
They were like,
they
wow,
they knew that
we
the
can
McCormick family was going to need
We have
some
needs,
help
and
when it
that's
came to
what
the
it
food
is. Yes.
department.
But we navigated that throughout our marriage, and we had a lot of conversations because we both came in
Frustrated.
frustrated with the what is it? The
Ideas.
idea of what it was supposed to be, because we didn't have those conversations on the front end. So there was tension when things weren't happening because there was an expectation that both of us had at each other that was never communicated. And so over time, we learned to communicate through that and go, oh, okay, like, you're not going to do that. So that, we agreed upon some different things so that we didn't have to live frustrated that that person wasn't doing what I thought they should do without communicating it.
So when Shayla does some of those things, like for me, it's like, oh, she loves me. Because I know it's not a natural.
And
thing
sometimes
for-
I don't do those things because I don't want you to love me that much. I don't want
Like,
TJ
it's
to
too-
love me
it's
right
too-
now.
Yeah, you're like, I don't want to clean up anything because he might show some affection. You're not interested.
Doesn't matter. I'm
Right,
going to show the
TJ?
affection anyways.
So what do you think it means? We talked about some innate roles. Do you think that there are things, biblical things, that God expects from a female and not a female, a wife and a husband?
I
Do you
think we
just
touched on that a little bit biblically.
Biblically, I mean, I think just in general, God expects you as a man to lead your home spiritually.
Okay, what does that mean practically?
I think you have to lead yourself spiritually first,
Right.
and
You have to model
You
that
have
for
to
your
model
family,
that
what
for
that
your
needs
family.
to look like.
And I think the reason a lot of men don't lead their homes spiritually is because they're not doing it personally, and then they want to go take authority without doing the legwork, so that like Shayla has. If I say like, hey, this is where we're gonna go and this is what we're gonna do, and we're both A-type personalities, we're both very, very strong personalities. It's easy for Shayla to submit to that because she sees me leading myself really, really well. Now,
Not as a pastor.
not as a pastor,
but in our home, I
like,
see you reading your Bible. I see you praying. I see, you doing all of those things, which builds confidence in
Yeah.
me. Like if you were just saying, well, I'm reading my Bible and I don't ever see that, I don't know that I would have that type of confidence. But I think what happens is women a lot of times want to grow spiritually, and they're the ones doing those things because they want to be led. They want to know what to do, and their husband's not doing that. And they're deepening the conversations I have with so many women are, man, I want my husband to want to go to church. I want him to read the Bible. I want him to lead me. They are desperate for their husbands to lead them, but they're asking to lead them spiritually, not just to tell them what to do.
Yeah.
Right. And interesting because today
Mm-hmm.
there's a stat that says that 50% of households of married couples, women out earn their spouses just at about half.
Yeah, I don't doubt
50%.
that.
Okay.
They have much higher EQs.
Yes. So do you think that brings instability when it comes to a male, like the husband leading their home? Do you think that aspect?
I think it doesn't have to.
I don't think it has to, because I think that the problem is that, you said 50% of marriages end in divorce. Here's the real statistic, though. A couple that goes to church together, prays together, serves together, is in a group together, their divorce rate it's only like 2% get divorced. So if you're doing the things that are spiritually leading, the divorce rate is basically non-existent.
And what's interesting is people think in Christianity, right? Like these are rules, and we just buck up against the biblical principles that are there. But those biblical principles are there to provide guardrail, like safety and protection. So just like TJ's saying, if you do the things that are helping you grow spiritually, there's the protection of your marriage. So that divorce rate is going from 50% to 2%. Why? Because you're operating within the guardrails and the protection of what God desires for your life. And you're living a more fruitful, healthy, beneficial life. And that is better for your entire family. If your marriage is good, your kids are more confident. Like there's so many things that come with a healthy marriage that so many times in society right now, we're focused on our kids. And like there's this child-centered parenting kind of thing when really the focus should be on creating healthy marriages because that creates healthy kids.
Yeah.
You're the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think, biblically, I think this is what you guys are saying. I'm just repeating so that I sound smart. That the woman's job is to be a helper to the male, to the husband,
Okay.
and the husband's job is to protect.
We're both helping each other.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't want that to.
When I
Yeah.
say helper, let me clarify just
Yeah.
one thing. When I say helper, I don't mean in some seasons those look different. You guys are helpers to each other, right? But like what I mean is some seasons one is working and the other one is home. Other seasons both of you are working. For some marriages, one is at home, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the male is out working and the female is out at home. But you guys are a team, and you guys are your job is to support one another,
Yeah.
help each other.
Like the moms that stay at home, that is the hardest job.
Yeah.
God
Hardest job
bless
on the
you.
planet.
Like, I would murder those children if
Oh
I
my
if
gosh.
I like. I'm just like, that is not a like.
Well, we got families here that have like 7 or 8 kids.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
like at this
I'm
point,
like-
you're a village.
I'm like, oh my goodness, that
Yeah, but there's some families where dads stay
Yeah, yeah.
home and moms work. Like,
yeah.
whatever it is that you agree upon,
Right.
And that's the whole thing is where is the conversation that you guys are in agreement together,
Yes.
and you guys have chosen.
that's right.
This is how we're going, and that works in your communication and your leadership. Because here's the thing, where Shayla has strengths, I defer. Like
Mhm.
as we're doing things, like you're strong there. Like you make that decision. You're gonna
Right.
make a better decision in that, and that's good leadership.
Right.
That's still leading. I don't have to make the final decision to be the leader. Like, in fact, being a leader is realizing she's really strong right there, and she's got better insight. Like, I believe the best in people. She's got
I'm like, what are you about to say?
No, no,
I
no.
believe the best, and she.
no,
Oh,
but
well.
I don't
but
believe the
I don't
best in people.
I don't have high discernment.
Yes, I have discernment.
She has unbelievable discernment, and so I'm going to rely on her leadership when it comes to that, because she'll see things and notice things about people that I'm oblivious to, because she's gifted in that, and I would be foolish not to
Listen to her.
listen to her insight and her wisdom.
She's like, yeah,
I
you
think-
would be foolish.
I
not to
think,
listen.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
I've done that before, and it makes me look really stupid.
I think really the key is the constant conversation of communicating like expectations or the things that, you're processing through in your own mind that you're frustrated with the other person or there hasn't been clarity. And I think if you can agree upon that, but I think you also both have to be in pursuit of the spiritual disciplines
Yeah.
that allow you to surrender in moments you need to surrender, or make decisions in moments you need to make decisions, and that there's like this almost equal submission because
It is equal
of
submission.
of the legwork that you've put in spiritually, affects the things that in that physical world.
It's the old adage of the triangle. Like,
Yep.
if you have a person in each corner and you're pursuing God, you'll meet here. As lame as that thing is,
It's
it's
so
true.
true.
Yeah.
It's so true.
And I get so frustrated because
It's not hard.
it's not. It is not. But people just don't want to do the little things. The little things are the hardest thing. Simple, not easy.
Yeah.
Right? These principles are so simple, but you have to be committed to the discipline to do it in order to get the result that you want. And most people just aren't willing to do the simple, everyday things that are going to lead to a healthy marriage.
Yeah. And what will you say? Well, let me ask, can you guys guess the 4 things statistically that couples
Financial, sex, communication. Okay.
The 4 things they fight about.
Yeah.
the most?
Money.
Money,
Did I say that?
Money,
I said that.
Sex,
money,
That's-
sex, probably children,
Kids.
kids, parenting,
and job.
chores around the house, like division of
roles.
responsibility.
Roles.
Yes, the roles. That's
Mhm.
why we led with that. What will you say? Those are the 4 things statistically that couples most fight about. I think number 1 was finances,
Mm-hmm.
and then number 2 came in slightly.
All of those are communication issues, though.
Yep.
We think those are the symptoms of
Lack of communication.
lack of communication. Those are just symptoms of a singular problem.
But let's talk about, right now we're talking about a marriage where both people are searching for God. And there's,
Okay.
what will you say to a couple where they're like, well, I'm doing my part, but he's not doing his, or I'm doing my part, but she's not doing hers. And
Then keep doing your part.
keep doing your part, keep showing up. And how do you try to create unity, or in decision making when, when one person isn't searching for God? Because right now we're talking about, it's easy for you to submit to TJ
Mm-hmm.
because you see him doing all these things. What would you say to somebody who doesn't see that in their spouse? Where do you go from there? What's some practical
I think my
things?
first submission is to God and what God says in his word. And regardless of what TJ's doing, I still have to honor what God's word says. And I know that God's going to take care of me and honor my obedience in those moments, regardless of what he's doing.
I mean, the Apostle Paul talked about it. He said, if you have an unbelieving spouse, what do?
You love them.
You love them.
Serve them.
Do all the things
Yep.
that you should be doing
Yep.
in spite of that. And they're going to see your good
And
deeds.
be won over by them.
And be won over by them. So
Don't stop doing the right
don't
things.
stop. You do the right thing and let God work it out.
Yep.
Mhm.
And the problem is because we live in an instantaneous, well, I did it one time and they didn't respond. Well, yeah, you might have to do it 100 times. But you keep doing the right thing and God will honor your obedience.
There was a couple in our church many years ago, Kevin and Rhonda. And Rhonda, was serving God, loving God, doing everything. Kevin was out, doing drugs, going to strip clubs,
Craziness.
just crazy. And when he came home, she would love him.
She would have
She
dinner
would
for him.
serve him.
She'd be waiting up for him. She would never berate him.
Yep.
She
Just
just served,
loved him.
And eventually, Kevin's life got radically transformed. I think we have a video somewhere on our YouTube page of their story.
Yep.
And it's like it just shows you keep doing the right thing, transformation will happen.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you stay focused on that path, just putting it before God daily? Because I think that's hard, right? What
It
she did
is.
was hard. So what would you say to somebody
I would say choose your hard.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be hard if you leave that person and get divorced, and you're just going to face a different kind of hard. And your statistic of divorce after that first one goes up even more. So what's your hard to invest in the marriage you have now, or to exit and try to do life by yourself and,
Start over again.
start all over again?
That's good. And I'm going to ask one final question for you guys. When you guys said that you guys got married and you thought Shayla came in with built-in hardware, and you said that you had things that you had to deal with, how did you practically communicate that to each other without feeling like you guys were attacking one another?
Oh, at first,
well,
I
at
think
first
we
it
were
was
attacking
attacks.
one another
You're like,
until
"How do
we
you
learned
not
how to
cook it clean?"
communicate. Yeah. We were
Yeah.
blaming each other
we
a
played
lot
the blame game.
until we figured out the art of communication.
Okay.
And And how you figure out the art of communication is you start having hard conversations. We go on walks. That's where we would have hard conversations. Is we'd go on walks and we would talk about the frustrations.
Still do that.
We still do that to this day.
See TJ and Shayla walking anywhere, don't approach them. They're in a serious conversation. All right, so you're just like, let's keep doing it because eventually there's gonna be a breakthrough.
I mean, and now we communicate those things in a different way. I think, like, because we have grace for one another, and and we've talked about this probably a million times at church. I'm going to talk to TJ about something that he's done that is frustrating or it's affecting us. I'm going in with grace, going, hey, I first want to start off by saying, I don't think you intend to do this. Like, I don't think this is your intention at all. But here's what's happening on my side. And then it gives him an opportunity to go, I'm not intending to do that. And I'm so sorry that you're feeling that way. Or I'm sorry you're feeling that way, but here's why. And we can have a healthier conversation because he doesn't feel like I'm coming in and attacking him.
Right. And if you could give, last one. If you could give one piece of advice, you to men, TJ, and you to women, Shayla, besides putting yourselves before God, because I think that's the main thing that you have to do. Mm-hmm. But if you could give husbands and wives one piece of advice, like TJ, you speaking to the men, and Shayla, you speaking to the women, what would that be?
Die to yourself. If you die to what you desire, the byproduct of you dying and just serving will be everything you want will come to you.
And I would say honor. I would say nobody can build him up or tear him down like you can. And so you have to use words and actions that are going to build confidence in him and let him know that you love him, that you're for him. And I think we don't realize the power of our words and our actions in their life.
Thank you guys. That was very helpful. And thank you guys for hanging out with us. And we will see you next week.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in this week to Life Beyond Sunday. I'm TJ. This is my wife, Shayla. We love hanging out with you. If you wouldn't mind subscribing, liking, commenting on the sections below, and we look forward to seeing you next week.